What we have here today is a Logitech Brio, and I'm going to show you why this is the webcam I would recommend. And I say this as someone who's recorded over 300 interviews and 100 podcast episodes. Now, if I bring you to the software itself, there are two options. I'm not sure why with the Logitech software. Both work great. I'm going to be showing you the Logitune software over here. There is also the Logitech, you can see here in my taskbar, the G Hub. They both do the same thing. What is neat about the Logitech software is it will connect with all your Logitech devices. So you might be wondering, Adrian, what's the big deal? Aren't all webcams the same? And I can tell you, as someone who has reviewed the competing products such as the eMeet and the Nexigo, I am sticking with the Logitech purely because of the software. There's really two big things you need to consider when setting up your webcam. One of them is this field of view. Now, I have it set to 78 degrees. That's my kind of default. Using the software, you can see I can switch it to 90 degrees or to 65 degrees as well. Now, you might think, what's the big deal about that? Well, here's the thing. This allows you to have control as to how much of the background is seen. And if you're like me, as I said, I've done a lot of podcast episodes and interviews. I like to kind of have an interesting background. You can see a little neon sign there, one of my books, some more neon signs behind me, and the stand with one of my other books. So I have this set up the way I want it. If I was only able to set up, as some webcams do, at 90 degrees, see those tennis rackets of mine on the sofa in the background? I put those there for a reason. So now I've got that junk in the background. I also have the back there, which has actually got a lot of alcohol on it, which is not ideal. You can see an ugly charger. And I have just all this empty space that I don't really want people to see. And then if it happened to be too close, this is 65 degrees and I can't zoom out. If you're someone who doesn't have a lot of office space and you can't back up, well, now you're too close and the top of your head's either is going to be chopped off, or if you move the webcam up, then maybe the bottom of your chin's going to be chopped off. So having this field of view, and it's got these three different settings, is a huge plus for the Logitech. The Nexigo, the N60 and the eMeet 1080 don't have this option. You can further control this with the zoom. Now, I tend not to use the zoom. You can see here, you can really zoom in if you want to. Oh, forgot that, sorry. You can really zoom in if you want to. I don't usually recommend that only because zoom on most webcams is a digital zoom, which means it's just blowing up the picture bigger, so you're losing image quality. So it's a nice to have, but it is by no means a replacement for field of view. Having said that, if I wanted to fine tune the image, I could zoom in a little bit, and let's say I had something in the background I didn't want to see, I can zoom in a little bit. So it's nice to have that functionality. These two features alone are why I would recommend the Logitech over the other two competing products, even though they might well retail for a bit cheaper. The hardware obviously is great, but what I found is that the hardware between the competing webcams, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. Like, they all look pretty good, but you need this customizable field of view and zoom if you're serious about producing a video that looks halfway decent. Now, it does have other features, autofocus, manual focus, all this other good stuff here. What I have found is I generally leave this on default and it's fine. You will see I've switched off autofocus and just adjusted the manual focus, because sometimes when I'm moving around, it picks up, let's say, my hand and then doesn't focus back on my face. So I just prefer it on manual focus. Having said that, the autofocus has worked brilliantly, like 99% of the time. So I hope this gives you some idea as to why, when my best friend, for example, wanted a webcam recommendation, I gave him the Logitech recommendation. I could have recommended a cheaper alternative, and some of those ones, the image quality, I would say, is just as good. Like, it's very hard to tell the difference. But for the software alone, and this software comes free with the webcam. You may have to download it, but you don't have to pay for it. That's important. But for this software alone and this functionality, I can't see, if you're serious about producing, as I said, a quality video, the Logitech has to be your bet.